Hey everyone, Sean here, and today in this video I wanted to sit down and talk about my first impressions on Digimon Survive, a game that I had been waiting eagerly alongside with something like Advanced Wars reboot, for 1 and 2. Unfortunately, that game is still not out, but at least with this game, it is definitely out at this point, although not before meeting several delays and such. So I've been stuck waiting along with other Digimon fans and such. I've been, a fan of Digimon for, a long time. I've watched it in the 90s or late 90s, right? Both English and Japanese, kind of side to side. Although I think the English one came first, but right after that I watched it in Japanese. So you kind of know where I'm coming from, of course. So I, definitely love the opening, Butterfly for Digimon's Japanese side of things. So, it's one of those things where I hold pretty close to my heart, along with like Pokemon and other things. So that's where I'm coming from with Digimon, and definitely this was a game I was like pretty interested in just from seeing the trailers and all that stuff with the visual novel elements and such like that, and of course the tactical RPG gameplay that was shown off throughout time. And of course with each delay, I was like, but I knew it would come eventually, and I kind of have that mindset, luckily, that I can just wait and do other things while I'm waiting. So it's finally here. I just started playing yesterday as I recorded this. I first streamed it, and it was like, what, 7 hours, and I played it even more, so I progressed a little further outside the stream. So I am in part 2 right now, I believe, and I definitely can give my first impressions right now. I kind of have an idea of what the game is going to be like, but of course there's probably going to be a little more to it than that. But the basic stuff I can definitely cover, I feel, within this first impressions video. Overall, for my impressions on Digimon Survive, I really do like it so far. Although this is a game where you do have to have some sort of like a certain mindset, especially for those who have played visual novel games. If you go in thinking that, first off, if you go in thinking that you're gonna be playing like your typical like Digimon game where you just go around and fight Digimon and stuff like that, other Digimon, and just feel good that way or get your satisfaction that way, this is definitely a very heavily story driven game, along with Cyber Sleuth, but this is definitely more like that too. And because of the visual novel aspects to it, there is definitely going to be a lot of talking. There is a lot of talking in the beginning. Like other JRPGs, it is a slow burn. It does take some time to really get it going for the first few hours, and that it takes the time to introduce all your characters, right? To get to know them. It really sets up like the environment and what you're going to be putting yourself into, right? So it sets up the story. And once that kind of starts to snowball, then it starts to get pretty fun with the combat. It's pretty basic so far. There is some strategy to it, like the terrain levels and stuff like that. Like for example, if you attack from a certain height, you might get more or less damage, that sort of thing. If you attack from a certain direction, you get more or less damage. So like if you attack from the front, that's like normal damage. If you attack from the side, it's a little more damage, and if you attack from behind, that's the most damage you can get. So it's like an assassination type of mechanic within it. So and of course you move around in units just like any other tactical RPG. They have like movement unit or like movement sort of stats, and you have speed involved, and of course attack, special attack sort of damage, and then so on and so forth. For a Digimon game though, this is where for each battle you do have to evolve your Digimon. Your Digimon will always go back to their rookie forms or their lowest forms, which is usually rookie. And so if you want to evolve your Digimon in battle, you just hit the evolution button, which will happen during the later parts of like part 1 or 2 or something like that. I forget which one exactly, but it happens kind of early on, so you'll be able to Digivolve in battle early on, so it doesn't take that long, right? For a JRPG for you to get some fun out of it. And speaking of Digivolving, there are like some Digimon have like one route, but a number of Digimon, especially with the partner Digimon, which is basically the Digimon who are sticking with the main cast, that pretty much will have like a bunch of routes, and I guess like depending on where your main character is in terms of like karma level that it's called, they'll evolve to a certain direction, like literally. And what I mean by karma is there are three elements of karma, right? And a lot of these visual novel games, like they if you like pick a certain path, or if you pick certain choices, it'll lead you to a certain path. That's what's kind of what it's doing here. If you pick certain answers, it'll lead you to like, oh, this element of karma, this element of karma, and this other element of karma. And that's kind of actually color coded by, or it's color coded, and so it's either red, green, or yellow. Pretty basic. So for red, it's moral, yellow is wrath or wrathfulness, and green is harmony. And what I can tell you is that, well, you can kind of tell wrath is kind of like the quote-unquote evil path, and moral is actually the good path, and then harmony is more like the neutral path, because you're, well, harmonizing with, you're trying to harmonize with everyone, right? So that's like kind of a lot. I feel like a lot of people will do that on their first try, unless you kind of figure out early on that this is a thing. So this will play a part of what your Digimon are going to be evolving to, especially with Agumon for right now. So for example, for me, because I was choosing more of the harmony stuff in the beginning, my Agumon digivolved to finding enough Tyrannomon rather than your, typically, Greymon, for example. Now I believe Greymon will be more towards the moral path, because each element does favor, of course, the Digimon types, right? And for those who know Digimon, there's vaccine, virus, and data, of course. That's always been a thing throughout Digimon, right? Especially during the beginning of things. You can kind of imagine where the karma is going with that. So moral and wrath are kind of obvious. Wrath is more for viruses, moral is for vaccine, and harmony is for data. So you kind of gather much of where that's going. So if you pick a more neutral path, you're going to be favoring more towards a data Digimon sort of build, so to say. That's why your Agumon will evolve to Tyrannomon, which is a data type, right? And it will lead to that path if you keep going with that. If you go for a moral path, you'll have a Greymon, so to say, and I assume if you keep going with the moral choices, then you'll have a War Greymon eventually down the line, and you kind of know where that's going, right, with Wrath. So luckily, Agumon, for example, does have multiple paths, so multiple branching paths. So for example, if you do have a Tyrannomon like me, you can go back to the moral path and still evolve it to Metal Greymon, and then right after that a War Greymon. So you'd probably be missing out on Greymon, but you can still have a chance to take the path of the vaccine, your usual vaccine path, right? So which is like Greymon and so on and so forth, and probably maybe something beyond War Greymon. I don't know that much. I don't know, but at this point I'm like at a crossroads with that, because I'm like trying to balance it out between moral and harmony. But maybe I don't know, because I feel like maybe I should stick with two types rather than just one type, right? Because I'm gonna get bopped by, for example, viruses, because it has the rock paper scissors mechanic where vaccines beat viruses, vaccine gets beaten by data, and data beats or gets beaten by viruses. So it's kind of like that sort of rock paper scissors sort of path, right? So viruses beat data, data beats vaccine, but vaccines beat viruses, to simply put it. So sorry if I confused you guys with that. So it does have that. So if you go for one sort of like path, right, I feel like you're gonna get really bopped by the the viruses, right? If you go for a data Digimon sort of path, which is harmony. So that's why I rather try to balance it out. But I also could represent with like the jack of all trades sort of problem where yeah, you have everything, but you're not good at one thing. You know, really good at one thing. So maybe because I'm not focusing on Wrath as much, maybe that'll still be enough for either one. So maybe like right at the end, I'll just pick a little more bit of data, so that I can still go for the harmony ending or something like that. I'm assuming rather than moral or something like that. I don't know because I already know what the moral path is going to be like anyway, so might as well make it a little more interesting and just stick with harmony a little more. And so right now, you can also like check that out in the karma guide or whatever in the status menu. You can check out your characters, including your main character, of course, and you can check out where you're at with your karma sort of circle graph, and you'll be able to see if you have more harmony or moral or wrath, you know, that sort of thing. And so it is interesting in that sense. And so I do like that sort of aspects of the gameplay so far, and it is an interesting way to sort of like try to digivolve to a certain path or to certain other Digimon, right, to your favorite ultimate level Digimon, which I still have yet to achieve, of course, right, or even of course Mega, of course, right, because I think Ultimate is still a step below. So yeah, that's War Greymon, for example. So yeah, I'm still not even there yet. I still barely digivolve like 2 of the partner Digimon, 2 champions. I just barely digivolved one of them, or another one, I should say. So, but of course, with Agumon is going to be your partner, and so you'll have either Greymon, Tyrannomon, and the other one I don't know. I forget the virus version or the virus champion for Agumon. So I don't know. I could look that up, of course, but I haven't really like gotten into that just yet. I haven't researched that far. But oh yeah, overall, basically, if you choose certain things from the dialogue choices, it'll definitely matter in that sense. And I'm assuming the ending you'll get, what happens to the characters maybe, will be based off of your harmony, your amount of moral, and your amount of wrath or wrathfulness. So, and of course you can, it's a little different from when you're talking directly with each of the characters. So if you're talking to, let's say, Aoi, right? You're one of the main female characters. It's like one of your 2 best friends, right? I guess, other than Minoru. Minoru it's like the Izzy lookalike, which is funny. But anyway, if you talk to each of them, you can have a chance to increase your infinity with them. And of course, if you increase your infinity with each of the characters, you'll have like perks like team attacks, kind of like Persona, for example, right? So choose your dialogue carefully, and you'll optimize, your synchronization and stuff like that within battle. It'll pay off. So the visual novel aspects of it do affect your gameplay, of course, and of course your outcome of your overall playthrough. So with that, I am a little more tempted to try all the paths, right? Maybe a more just data heavy path, a moral heavy path, and of course the wrathful path later on. But for right now, I'm kind of like bouncing between harmony and moral, although I am a little more heavy on the harmony. So yeah. Now I forgot to talk about the graphics of things rather than having graphics talked about first. But the graphics are pretty decent, I would say. It is charming to look at. It is using the Unity engine, which means it does look a little more like a mobile game-esque. It does have those sort of elements to it, but you can play these on multiple consoles across, including your PC, of course your Switch, your PS4, and so on and so forth, right? Xbox, I imagine. So it's not the most intensive game, so it'll be running fine for the most part. But I do like the sprites for the most part. Some of them do look a little weird, right? Because some of them look like they're pulled straight from the anime versus the sprites that are actually made for the game, right? So Agumon looks like he was made for the game, but meanwhile Gilmon, which is someone who you can get from, I guess, like pre-ordering or getting the digital version of the game. Funny enough, Gilmon looks like something from straight from the anime, which is weird because if you look at the shading, they look pretty different. If you have a pretty vigilant eye when it comes to artwork, that's just something I've noticed. So the sprites are a little inconsistent, and like I said, some of those Digimon they only have one path. So not all of them have this like complicated path, so you don't have to worry about all the Digimon and stuff like that. But some of them have simple paths. Some of them have like a little more complicated paths, and of course Digimon like Agumon and stuff have like multiple paths. So just keep that in mind. I think overall though, I think this is not going to be a huge Digimon game where you'll have like every single Digimon out there, because from what I've gathered, there's like over 1,000 at this point, which is crazy. I actually didn't know that until recently. Someone found that out in my chat when I was streaming it, and they said it was over like 1,400 or just about. That is crazy. That is super crazy to me. Like, I thought it would be around the same number as like Pokemon, because Pokemon's like barely under 1,000. It's almost there, if not just right at 1,000. But man, that is crazy. Anyway, so with that, you'll have a select few of Digimon. But I think for the most part, it'll have like a decent selection. I can already see Edamon in there, so that's pretty cool. Like some like a good number of the old school ones. I just hope, for me personally, I get to have Machine Dramon, hopefully at some point. Which also will have. I've seen Metal Seedramon in the past, so I was like, ooh. So I'm kind of that kind of guy. So I do want the old school Digimon for the most part, but we'll see. And that. Anything else? Oh yeah. So back on the graphics a little bit more. I do like the sprites when it comes to the combat of things. It does look pretty neat. It does like have that sort of old school sort of look to it. If you've played a number of these tactical RPGs, you kind of will feel right at home. The effects and everything, the movement, just the overall gameplay sort of structure and the look of it. You'll feel right at home with tactical RPGs. It looks cool. It looks charming. It kind of has that diorama effect with the bokeh effect, which is like the blurred background, right? It does have a sense of depth, right? It gives that illusion of depth. To kind of hide some of the artifacting and the flaws, right, in the graphics, which I guess it benefits in that sense, right? It looks interesting, but not only that, it's hiding some of the faults of the graphics, I guess you can say. So not only that part, but when it comes to the visual side of things, the visual novel side of things, it does look pretty interesting. I'm not completely like or anything like that, but with my eyes. The lighting really gets shown off like a more dynamic matter. Like the sprites kind of interact with the lighting pretty good. Like they don't have that same like look to it for each lighting, like at night, daytime, in the forest, right, or underground or something like that. The lighting they do play around with that. Like, so there is a variety of looks on the sprites, so it does look interesting in that sense. So I do appreciate how much of effort they put into that side of things when it comes to the visual side of things, the visual novel side of things, I mean. And for a lot of people who are going into this game, I'm pretty sure they're gonna find those parts boring or not. I mean, really is up to the person, really, case by case. But it's just that a lot of people are gonna be hopefully not be going in with expectations, because they want to just fight Digimon and stuff like that. There is going to be a lot of visual novel sides to it. There's going to be a lot of dialogue. There's going to be a lot of talking, like no voice dialogue, right, also there. And there's also going to be a good amount of like exploration, quote unquote, where you're just basically looking at a JPEG and you're just like pointing and clicking a bunch of things. And sometimes, if you use your phone, you can scan for these like weird digital lines, and you'll like find treasure or you'll find enemies to fight, right? So, that's the kind of thing it'll be like. It's just a lot of pointing, clicking, visual novel stuff where you're just picking dialogue that will affect your choices and how your game is going to be like throughout your playthrough. So yeah, it's that kind of visual novel game with tactical RPG gameplay thrown in there. So overall, for Digimon Survive, if you're going to be buying this game, if you're a fan of Digimon, I think I can say I can recommend it early on. But I can definitely say though, if you're going to be buying Digimon Survive, go in with the mindset that you're going to be playing a visual novel rather than going in with the mindset of playing like your typical JRPG type of video game with that tactical element in there. So try to keep that in mind as you're trying to make a purchase decision with this game. But it is fun for me. I've dealt with games that do have visual novel sides to them. This is just a game where it is more like a visual novel than anything else I've played in my sort of quote-unquote lifetime of gaming. So it is something I'm used to, I can tolerate. It is a little more up my alley in a way, but I do understand where if people are just going to outright buy this game and meet those sort of elements, they may be bored. So you just got to have that mindset, set up those expectations, and I think you'll definitely have much different of an impression for this game than you would if you just like go in blind or something like that. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's a case by case thing, but hey, I'm just throwing it out there. So overall, I do like it. I do like the voices, right? There's only Japanese voices, but with English dialogue along with other languages, right? So you can definitely enjoy it for the most part in several languages for text. But for Japanese voices, that's the only thing. So you don't have any. There's no dubbing. There's no whatever. There's only Japanese dialogue, but which is okay. I mean, the audio is crisp. I do like the music. I do like the atmosphere, the vibe, and everything else. That's fine so far, anyway. And I have yet to play all of it, so there's more to come, I guess. Right? I'll try to do a review on it as soon as I'm done with it, at least with one path, because at that point I have an idea of how the game is going to play out throughout, right, one playthrough, right? So you'll get the overall package, I feel, once you finish one ending, right? So I'll definitely try to do that as soon as I'm done with one path and give you guys my verdict, just like what I did with Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's one of the games I played that has that sort of visual novel aspect to it, along with other such Japanese games as well. I'll try to do that, and I'll definitely continue playing it. I do like it so far. So that's my overall impressions. So much for being a quick video. There is quite to talk about because I do like the game. So that I guess that kind of tells you something. But mileage may vary just because of that visual novel aspect to it. So that's the only thing that could be holding the game back. People might be wishing for more tactical JRPG than anything, but we'll see. So thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments and or questions about Digimon Survive, I'll do my best to answer those. But if you have any comments about this game, what are your overall impressions so far? And oh yeah, they did put out a warning on Twitter for the official Digimon Survive Twitter that not to post any spoilers from anything beyond Chapter 5 and over, or beyond that, or Parts 5 and beyond. They do give out a warning for that. And if you do, just hashtag like spoilers, or just give a warning like, oh, spoiler warning and stuff like that. So be mindful of that, and I think we can all have a pretty fun experience with this game. So I'm all for that. And yeah, again, have any comments about this game, throw that down below. I'd love to check them out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps out, and I do appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the membership if you want to take part of that. I do have the emotes up at this point. It's pretty set up at this point, so I really do appreciate if you guys take the time to consider it. It is an option, but I do appreciate it anyway. So, of course, there's all other links in the description below. Check those out. And yeah, so it's like more ways to help out the channel as well without doing much on your own end, really. So that's all I got, and thank you very much for this, for your time. This has been my first impressions on Digimon Survive. So thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Sean out.